Well, thanks for inviting me along. So I do feel I've got a different spin on impact today, and I do definitely feel like a bit of an imposter or outlier. So my talk is less about metrics, analytics, and quantitative stuff. It's more about the stories we tell about research impact and the role that science journalism can play here. So specifically, it's about the role of science journalism in helping individual scientists, professional associations, and entire communities get the message across about societal, economic, and cultural impacts of their research, whether they're talking to a professional audience of scientists, educators, funders, or whether they're talking to the scientifically interested lay public. I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to keep this fairly brief and bullet point form, but I'm just going to start with a bit of context, headline take on IOP publishing and our science journalism program, talk about a diversification of that program, custom publishing initiative called Science Impact, and some work we've been doing in Brazil with some professional society partners. So very quickly, IOP Publishing is the for-profit publishing arm of the Institute of Physics, a professional society with 50,000 scientific members worldwide. So they are physical scientists working in research, education, and industry. And the surplus we make from our publishing activity helps the society finance its wider scientific mission and its membership growth and retention. In terms of publishing, we employ about 300 staff, 10 locations around the world, headquartered just down the M4 in Bristol, but very much an international operation. And our publishing portfolio breaks down into three key areas. So we publish over 70 research journals, more than half of those on behalf of other professional societies. We've got a fast-growing ebooks program, which has gone from 0 a couple of years ago. Release 3 next year, we're planning to publish 80 ebooks. But it's the third strand of our program, journalism education, that really provides the focus of this presentation. So this incredibly talented bunch of people is IOP's journalism and education team. We have 16 staff writers, editors, and publishers working across a portfolio of print and digital magazines, specialist community websites, multimedia services, and some education titles targeting secondary and tertiary level educators. So they're a high-performing team, and they've clocked up some impressive validation from their peers in the specialist publishing industry in the past few years. So just a couple of weeks ago, we bagged our latest gong for Best Digital Magazine App for Physics World, our membership magazine, coming in just ahead of Massage and Bodywork in the Folio Awards, and then various awards for Best Specialist Journalism Website and Professional Society Magazine, and some individual writer and editor awards in there as well. So that's a kind of bit of context. I'll rattle through the main part of the presentation now. So a number of factors really contributed to that industry recognition in recent years. So product innovation in the digital space, definitely. Commercial growth as well. But also some good old-fashioned content development. And I'd sort of probably single out one major change over the last 5 years in terms of our journalistic approach and focus is that we've gone from being sort of very EU and North American centric in terms of our coverage to really starting to, have a global outlook when it comes to journalism. And that's, in terms of, some of the publications on here. So we've created a supplement series to our membership magazine, which has really enhanced our engagement with scientists and research institutions in key emerging markets like China, India, Brazil, Korea, Japan, and just recently Mexico, which isn't on here. At the same time, we've also made a move to exploit that journalism capability in new ways through a custom publishing program called Science Impact. And this is a really big departure for us. So this is about putting our journalistic team and our capability to work in a new context. So journalism as a publishing service. And what we're trying to do is support partner organizations who've got a strategic requirement to to tell a bigger, bolder story about science and the impact of science. So what does science impact look like in terms of execution and in terms of outcomes? Well, I'm going to focus on Brazil, where we've completed a couple of projects today with leading professional societies. So the Brazilian Physical Society here and the Brazilian Materials Research Society. Quite a lot of similarities between these projects, so I'm just going to focus in on one of them, which is the Physical Society. So in terms of the brief from the customer here, the Brazilian Physical Society, it looks something like this. The core driver for them was to highlight success stories across a range of disciplines in Brazilian physics: theoretical research, experimental research, fundamental and applied, as well as looking at contextual issues around that research, so science education, funding, diversity, and research translation into commercial applications. Now, they wanted to tell that story to the domestic science base, so their membership, and the wider academic and industrial research community, as well as engaging with funding agencies in this way. And then crucially, through our networks of scientists, authors, etc., they wanted to get the message out internationally as well about what's happening in Brazilian physics, to encourage collaboration across disciplines and across borders. So in terms of execution, like this slide summarizes like some of the key aspects of the project. So the main output for the society customer was a print magazine and supporting digital edition produced by our IOP's journalism team. So we worked collaboratively with the customer in the planning stages to agree the scope and the granular editorial themes for this magazine, and then subsequently took responsibility for content generation and for managing all aspects of print production and distribution. Clearly, a project like this is only going to work if you're out there carrying out primary research. We have no editorial staff in Brazil, so senior IP journalists were dispatched on planes over to Brazil to spend a significant amount of time traveling around, carrying out face-to-face interviews with senior scientists, early career scientists, educators, funding agencies, and policy types, with additional follow-on content generated by phone, email, Skype. And throughout, the customer, the Brazilian Physical Society, retained editorial control and, of course, had final approval of all content and page proofs. But, I mean, I need to emphasize that control or that oversight was very light touch. I think we did a lot of work up front with the customer in terms of defining scope, defining the approach, and they very much wanted us to have freedom and editorial independence on this, to apply the same kind of judgments as we do on our wholly owned journalistic products and services. So a lot of editorial freedom. Just a quick slide on the sort of coverage that I think we had 15 feature articles in this publication, broad range of physics research, so international collaboration, Brazil's role at CERN, innovation in industry, education, diversity, and career progression. And then in terms of the final product, I think what we ended up with is a really high-value content piece, which is kind of a given for us. But also, as you'll see here, just a few sample pages, really high-quality design and production value. So a publication that we feel is defined as much by its design and visual presentation as by its content credentials. In terms of, for the partner, the customer, it's really all about the outcomes. And I would summarize the outcomes they were looking for from this project in 3 words. Visibility equals recognition equals impact. So to deliver that, we printed 5,000 copies of this publication locally in Brazil for distribution by the customer to its membership and to other key stakeholders. So other senior scientists outside the core physics discipline, but also funding agencies and government departments. At the same time, we printed here locally in the UK and mailed 15,000 1,500 copies, to our senior contacts, specifically senior editorial board members on relevant journals. And that was backed up by additional volume print distribution at major scientific conferences. So we attend over 300 scientific meetings every year, and this magazine was present on our booth throughout. And then complementing that, a heavily downloaded digital edition to ensure ongoing visibility. And I'm pleased to say that from the customer at the society level, from everyone who was featured in this publication, the feedback collectively was really, really positive. And I think, that's testament to the freedom we were given to interpret this, narrative with a lot of editorial freedom and independence. There wasn't a lot of meddling. We agreed the scope, the content program early on, and we were given quite a lot of leeway to go out and tell this story for the customer. And probably I could have filled 4 slides with these sound bites, but the big one is obviously the former Brazilian science minister who sent us an email to say congratulations and thanks for the great job. He also happens to be a physicist, and he was interviewed in the publication, so he was obviously really pleased with that. And then just a quick recap in terms of, in summary, what the Science Impact Programme, high-quality science journalism can do for partners, whether they're professional associations, whether they're funders, or whether they're research institutions. First and foremost, I think it's about this initiative is about raising the profile of research activities at home, so showcasing success stories, ongoing challenges in an accessible, engaging manner that opens stuff out beyond the core discipline. This is a publication that was read widely by scientists in other disciplines, and as I said, by funders and policymakers. Demonstrate the wider impact of research to improve funding outcomes. This was another key driver for the customer. Also encourage collaboration between institutions, between disciplines, between industry and academia. And I think a big aspect here was that this publication really helped the Brazilian physics community to better define itself and better articulate kind of all the initiatives that were underway. This is a big country; it's like bigger than Europe. So I think it really helped connect the community. And at the same time, enhance the organisation's position, reputation with key stakeholders, the membership, and other senior researchers. Ultimately, offer a better service to membership to retain members and help collect membership dues. Internationally, it was about boosting awareness, enhancing the reputation of Brazilian research, and crucially attracting talent. The best postgrads and senior scientists from overseas. So I guess the key takeaway from this is, for me, impact isn't just about metrics, analytics, data. It's the story that we tell alongside those measures. That's equally important in terms of capturing value, whether that's economic, whether that's social, whether that's cultural or educational. So I think that soundbite earlier, Richard, it's statistics and storytelling. You need both, and I'm definitely coming at it from the qualitative angle. So just one final slide. So this is just a quick summary of the project life cycle. So probably this was like probably 8 months in the making in terms of initial conversations and getting down to a contract, then defining strategy, audience, operational model, and then the hard work of the journalism team of scoping out that editorial program, doing the legwork, primary research, interviews, and packaging all that together into a kind of overarching narrative. And then, again, finishing the job off with a really high-quality visual design piece. In terms of output, we provide all sorts of options: print, apps, online, and loads of socialization. And then, ultimately the last piece is impact and really pushing that publication far and wide, domestically within Brazil and then internationally through our networks, and hopefully delivering significant return on investment for the customer. So that's it from me. Thanks for listening. Any questions?